Good morning, everyone, and thank you. As usual, we're doing our monthly Complete the Count Committee, and we are in what we probably would call the home stretch because we have so many. We've been working for since last year to bring awareness to how important the census is. We've collectively joined together on meetings like this to share best practices and to move forward with a lot of great initiatives in order to get the Bronx counted to 100%. We are not at 100% yet. We have a 57% self reporting rate. So we know that we need to do better. We know that 57% is not even close to what we need in order to be really counted and receive the services that we should have. I don't even have to say, um, because I think it's just known that the Bronx is an underserved community, and if you live here and you work here, you see it every day in certain areas, and so it's so important that we in our work hard to get everyone counted in the Bronx because that means um, millions and billions of dollars coming into the borough for not just entitlement programs like SNAP and that and the like, but also infrastructure, bus routes, train routes. There's so many things, and I think the census folks that are on now can really again lay out the list of things that are affected by a complete count or an effective count. And then the amount of money that we lose when we are not counted is again into the billions of dollars. And I hope that they'll speak a little bit more about that as well. Um, all of that being said, we are um, over a month away from the end. We're looking at the census will end in December, the self response. Um, it's not December, September 30th. And so we are a month away, and a little more than a month away, 41 days. And that means that we have a challenge. We have a challenge for everyone that we need to put out all hands on deck. 41 days. And we know there's so much good work that can be done in 41 days. But we want to make sure that everyone is doing, as I said, all hands on deck. And that's why we are here today. We're here to talk more about that and how we can work together at important partnership. And I think maybe everyone can recall that at the end of last year, we were we were being told about some funding that we would receive from New York State. And although we had a tremendous break in service in terms of the pandemic and so many other priorities, we have recently been announced that the Bronx will be receiving New York State funds for census outreach. And we're happy to say that although the number is not what we anticipated a year ago, it is something that we plan to work with everyone on the call to make sure that we use it as it is intended for census outreach. We'll be receiving $328,000 to be used for the next 41 days and to get out on the streets, sort of do some of those things that we did not get a chance to do because of the coronavirus pandemic and the lockdown and the precautions that we've taken, rightfully so. We have not been out, and we in a lot of cases have not done the work that we would normally have done by now. But we hope to make strong partnerships, and we know that we have made strong partnerships that will allow us to move forward. So, just some housekeeping or some things that you should know about the funding. Um, in order for a nonprofit to be eligible for the New York State County Census funding, it must have been pre-qualified prior to partnering with any county. So there's a process, and those on the call know what that process is or was. The New York State provided us a list of qualified nonprofits, and we coordinated the list with folks that we've previously partnered with or have a footprint in the Bronx. And so we've been able to work with and settle on a plan to move forward. So I want to just acknowledge the folks who will be recipients of the award from the Borough President's Office for outreach and oh, it sounds like an Oscar, for outreach and census and community boards. The awardees will be. Chris, you should have some canned applause for me there.
I'll get sound effects before our next meeting.
Okay. Everyone, he promised me sound effects. It goes to my ego. But what we've been able to do from the Borough President's Office is sort of divide the Bronx into, we didn't divide the Bronx into community boards. They were already divided into community boards, but we worked with groups that had a certain footprint in certain neighborhoods and community boards. And so again, the following folks will be receiving funding through New York State for outreach. And in Community Board 1 and 2, we will be working with Bronx Works. Bronx Community Board 3, Claremont Neighborhood Centers, Inc., and Children's Aid. Community Board 4, again, Bronx Works, Dominicanos USA, Young Casa Association, and Community Board 5 will be happily working with Davidson Community Center, Inc., again, Dominicanos USA, Young Casa Association, and Community Board 6, Children's Aid, and Community Board 7, Bronx Works and Dominicanos USA, Community Board 8, Dominicanos USA, Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, Community Board 9, Bronx Works, the Puerto Rican organization to motivate and enlighten and serve addicts, Community Board 10, Bronx Works, North Bronx Youth Sports Association, Community Board 11, Bronx Works, Community Board 12, Black Institute, Inc., North Bronx Youth Association, and the Urban League. So all of those names, we will, of course, be reaching out and, we've already reached out, and that's why you're on the call as well. But we will, of course, continue the conversation through yet another meeting virtually with finer details, and we'll be moving on as quickly as possible because, as I said before, our days are numbered, and we're looking to put all hands on deck really, really soon and get you, off and running. So I want to thank you guys for your time, allowing me to congratulate and welcome those organizations, those grant awardees on today. Maybe we will also have time for them to speak a little bit about their plans and hopefully their enthusiasm to move ahead with the process. And we thank you again for working with us. So that was a lot. That was a mouthful. But I want to go ahead and just move right into our agenda. Actually, before I do that, I always have to ask Tracy, did I miss anything?
No, we're good.
Okay, excellent. If not for Tracy and Chris, and all the other staff on the call, I don't know what I would do. And so thank you for keeping me on the rails today. Um, let's move on straight into our first a presentation. Someone who has not yet spoken to us, and so we're happy to have Emily Paez, Director of Government Affairs and Civic Engagement for the Hispanic Federation. Emily, how are you
Hi,
doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
I hear an echo, but hopefully you don't.
You're perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me this morning. Let's see something here. So thank you to Cecilia for inviting me as well to speak to you all. I wanted to take an opportunity. Wait, this is echoing. It's gonna drive me nuts. Okay, so I wanted to take some time to talk about effective messaging and also really some ideas and ways that we can get out the count as we look at these next few weeks. So we all know that, I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yep, it's just coming up now. We can see it.
Perfect. So I will be sharing this with everyone just so you have a copy of this. This is essentially just a toolkit that you can use. Some of you may have already seen of these tools, but perhaps what we seek to do is just to help you kind of map out the next few weeks, establishing a communications plan for your community-based organization or amplifying this message to your community. So we all know what effective messaging is working, right? We know that we incorporate COVID and the importance of recovering from the COVID pandemic in census, that there is perhaps more motivation to participate in the census. We know that when we talk about the reality of what our communities are facing, especially our Black and Brown community, pertaining to racial tension, that it does resonate with our community. And also clarifying myths. When we talk about the vulnerable immigrant community that right now is just in fear of completing the census, we need to make sure that we identify what the facts versus the myths are when it comes down to policy changes. For example, obviously knowing that the citizenship question is not on the census, and making sure that's very clear, and that any recent changes or potential policy, executive orders aren't resonating, and that's not the last thing that has been, amplified in our community. But we all know that the damage to some extent is done, and we want to make sure that everyone's clear. And so also as it pertains to, effective messaging, right now, we know enumerators are out in our communities. And one way to eliminate fear is to ensure that our communities are informed with what the proper presentation for an enumerator should be when they come to their homes, what the expectations are. And I will be sharing some information on, just what are the guidelines for a NORFU representative when they come to your household, what you should expect, what you shouldn't expect, and also how to go about reporting any potential fraud activity, and so just so that everyone's informed. So things that we can do to get out the count, as we probably have all been doing so far, obviously making sure that we're posting on our social media. But right now we need to really look at the next 6 weeks or so. I think a little bit more. It's 5 weeks, I would say. looking at these next 5 weeks, mapping out every single week and having an effective communications plan. We want to know, we want to make sure that every single window of communication is explored and is effectively being used during these last few weeks to get out that final push to get our communities counted. So we have some specific toolkits that go over, general census talking points, Black Lives Matter, homes that are doubled up, potentially NYCHA residents or people who live in basements that perhaps don't know where they classify when they, when completing the census and how to go about it. On the front line workers, there's graphics to just, engage that audience. The LGBTQ plus community, there's messaging around there. We all know our communities best. We know what messages will resonate versus those that perhaps may not as much. And so this is just a way to present various different options that you can use. And then second, we want to remind you the ability to, publish an op-ed in your local community using ethnic media outlets, trying to diversify that pool of audience that we're reaching out to, because we know that there has been more traditional ways, right? Perhaps, social media can only reach out to a specific amount of residents. We want to make sure to include this messaging in various outlets, and considering publishing an op-ed or making sure that your email newsletter includes information about, the phone numbers, the website where people can go and get enumerated. So branding your office. Many, community-based organizations are storefronts, or perhaps there are local businesses in your community that you would encourage them to post different materials in their storefronts to talk about the census. Faith-based organizations, or as they're kind of like moving into this, phasing into the ability to have more people in public spaces, encouraging them to also do the same, to talk about it during their congregations. Community-based organizations, local businesses. Sorry if I'm repeating myself. It's been challenging because throughout this entire presentation, I hear an entire echo. So it's pretty weird. And so I have information about how to go about requesting materials, both digital and print, from the US Census Bureau, from the New York City Census team. Organizing a caravan, and not just a caravan. There's ways to, establish a bike caravan or a walking caravan, making sure that you are remaining, socially distant and safe. But there's a tool that we have and a link that you can just give you the general guidelines about how to get started. Again, some of the other more traditional ways that we have been getting out this messaging is, through phone bank, through the text banks in our districts. New York City already has ongoing events. So please, plug yourselves into these, and I will provide the information. Mita and Juan Rosa from New York Immigration Coalition and Naleo are actually leading efforts throughout the state. But New York City also has different phone bank operations and text bank operations by borough. And as you probably all already know, again, just reminding you all about the opportunities that there are to continue to amplify these messages as you really map out these next few weeks. Talking to community members during all aspects, whether it be through virtual town halls that are taking place, or, there are visits to NYCHA facilities or senior centers, If they're in-person events and food distributions, please, continue to amplify this message at those spaces. As you probably all know, the mobile questionnaire assistance through the U.S. Census Bureau, there's a way to request a representative that will be present at a public facing event where they will provide a table, information about census participation, and help address any questions that community members will have pertaining to the census. And equally, the New York City Census team will be able to also provide those services. A simple gesture, yet, very effective, is encouraging members of your circle, your organization, to simply text 10 family and friends perhaps per week, right? And just encouraging them to making sure that they're counted and, providing them with the resources that they can continue to amplify that information to their internal circles, encouraging them to send to an additional 10 folks so that we can just continue to branch out, and that maybe, by receiving that text messages from someone that they know is perhaps more trusted messenger than, receiving that information from a general platform. We also have samples of Dear Neighbor letters that can be very effective in this time as we're making this final push and final ask. Talking to neighbors within your building, or, talking to neighbors in your circle. Perhaps you are a part of, different community-based organization, encouraging them to do the same. And last but not least, updating your signature, making sure that that's including census information in the 13 different languages that you can complete the census, and the hotline numbers. I provided English, Spanish here, but there are a lot more. There are 13 overall languages that folks can ensure that they are completing the census: Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Russian, etc. And there's one more thing I wanted to just share with you all. On September 10th, we are encouraging everyone to go on their social media platforms at 10 a.m. to complete the census. It's an initiative that we want to make sure that we're pushing everyone, and it's going to be shared in the toolkit that I shared. And we encourage everyone to just continue to amplify their messages, participate in digital census action days, and really, look at these next few weeks and optimize them in any way possible. And thank you for this opportunity to speak. And I apologize if I've sounded a bit muffled. The entire presentation has been echoed for me, so.
All right. Yeah, no, it sounded great on our end. So sorry about the echo that you were hearing, but everybody else, it sounded good. So, Tracy, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm here, Chris. I just wanted to thank Emily. Wanted to also say it sounded great on this end. So don't worry, we all have like technology problems and things happen, and kudos to you for just keep powering through. And that's generally what we have to do when it comes to this new normal that we have. We thank you again for being with us, and thank you so much for the Hispanic Federation for all its partnership levels. So thank you. Our next speaker, again, I always say friend to the Bronx, someone who is always, ready, willing, and able on all topics related to the census. And I'm going to, like I said, friend to the Bronx. She needs no introduction, but I will give her one anyway. She's a dynamic person. She's the partnership specialist at U.S. Census, and she is on with us today. She's going to give us some updates. She's going to tell us that we're beating Brooklyn, I hope, because that's always a goal. Uh, Maria Matos.
Hi, thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. The Office of the Bronx Borough President. I cannot thank you enough. There's no event that I go where I don't see the Borough President hands on, promoting the census, helping the community. We're really, really um, pleased, thankful, and it's amazing the support that we have from your office. So I have a few updates. Excuse me. Today is August 20th. It's been 2 years since I started this journey. Where response rates, if you go to 2020 census.gov/response dash rates, you can answer. You'll know 2020 census.gov. It only takes between 5-10 minutes of your time, and it will be very, very beneficial for you and your family for the next 10 years. Because remember, it's once every 10 years. You can also call 844-330-2020 and answer the questions in English. If you speak Spanish, you can call 844-468-2020 and answer on the phone. One of the things that we have right now is a non-response follow-up operations. It started in a little before August 11 in certain states. For us, it started August 11th, and enumerators are knocking on the doors. They're very, very outgoing because this is the last part of this race, and we have been training them to follow the guidelines of the federal, state, and local health authorities. So they're very adamant about having the mask on, the gloves. They're going to knock on the door. They're going to ask you if you need help from the census because that household did not answer. And if nobody's there, they're going to leave like a message and with some information that you can follow and answer the census online on the phone. If we see that that household did not respond, we're going to continue knocking on the doors. We also have the mobile questionnaire assistance events. For instance, your organization, they have some kind of event, food distribution, mass distribution, any event. You can call me or email. I'm going to put information in the chat and request that MQA event. And I will send census response representatives. They will be with tablets and with the IDs. They're going to go there, and while keeping the social distancing, they're going to help you answer the census right there. They speak English, Spanish, Chinese, Bengali. We had a great, amazing response last Monday at 5 o'clock in Parkchester with the Bengali community. We didn't have to ask them. They were coming to our CRRs to answer the census. So for all those not-for-profits or any other organization, this is what we need from you. Invite us to your event. Let us have the CRRs help counting people. The last part that I have here is the numbers for the New York State response with the help of enumeration with the enumerators. It went up to 66.4%. So that shows that the enumerators are doing an amazing job right now, following up and knocking on the doors. So well, this is all I have. I hope that the Bronx responds and is counted.
Great. Thank you so much, Maria, for your work in the Bronx. You've been doing a fantastic job. We really appreciate you here at the Borough President's Office. I see that there's a question in the chat for you. And it's from Betty Arcee, and she wanted to know,
Okay,
are
yes,
the
absolutely.
enumerators targeting certain Bronx neighborhoods? If so, what are they?
All right. That's a great question. Yes, it is indeed very reliable to answer online. The census, I do not know if there is some mistake in the response. I do not know. Sometimes, we do make mistakes, and if that happens, someone will call at the number that you put, if you did put any number in the questionnaire, or someone will knock on the door as well. If you feel like you make a mistake, or you want to check, you can go back and check. And if you did make a mistake, you can answer again. The census will take the most updated recent answer.
Okay. And we have another, Renee just wants you to post your contact information in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yes, and also one last thing.
Sure.
We are going to follow up in some households, uh, just not to count the people if they already answered, but it's a survey. It's to ask a few questions about, how did you answer? What do you feel? What things do you think could have been better, etc. So,
Okay. Well,
it's probably
that leads to the next question. Jason Carabao said he completed his census online in March, but he received a notice earlier this week that an enumerator visited my home to get me to complete it. I haven't followed up on that just yet, but it does raise some concerns. Is completing the census online reliable? If others who previously completed it online are receiving follow up from enumerators, will they take the time to complete the census a second time? I really hope my situation is an anomaly and not a widespread issue.
okay. So yeah, great question also. We have to understand that sometimes we have to send like either robocalls or an announcement to everyone, just to make everyone understand and be aware that this is very important. We apologize if we sent a notice or we made a phone call to that individual in that household who already answered. It's just a general announcement for everyone to be aware of what's going on and the importance. And perhaps also, if you already answer and you're sure that you answered, disregard, but just tell your neighbor, tell a family member, wait a minute, this is going on. September 30th, 2020 is the last day. Answer it.
Okay, great. And Kevin Wingo is asking if he can get the CRR assistance at some of his upcoming street canvassing events in the Bronx. Who does he
Absolutely.
contact, and what's the timeline for advance notice?
Well, let me tell you, I had a last minute request today, like yesterday, by the way, and today I have CRRs at 11 sharp there, even at 8:30 in the morning. But with it was for the last day of Ramadan for the Muslim community. So, I mean, if it's not after 9 o'clock and I'm already in my bed, I will make sure I will make sure that I'll do my best that you have CRR at your event. I'm going to put my email address so you can send me the request.
That's great. And yeah, and that's good to know because, as we're approaching this deadline fast and furious, every help we can get will matter. And also, too, you should be getting some assistance here in the Bronx because the New York State grantees are going to have street teams too. So we'll try to coordinate appropriately. But thank you so much for, answering those calls at 11 o'clock. This is a job. This is a job for many of us that doesn't end after 5. So
Yeah,
thank you so
and
much.
if you send me a request last minute and I send CRRs, please don't tell me, Maria, you didn't send CRRs that speaks Nigerian or Mandarin. Come on, you sent the request at 8 in the evening yesterday, so come on.
No, that's great. Thank you so much, Maria, for your presentation. And next, we have our New York City census folks that have been out there since the very beginning of the pandemic as well. And they've been on the ground doing their work. And I want to welcome Kathleen Daniels, who's the New York City field director, and Joshua Peacock, who's our Bronx coordinator. So welcome, Josh. And welcome,
Hello.
Kathleen.
Hello. So unfortunately, Kathleen got pulled into a presser with the mayor, and so she's actually there right now. So it's actually going to be me and also Jason, who's the director of external affairs from our office as well.
Welcome, Jason.
And so I can just give like a brief update on the contest and like field and stuff, and then Jason can talk about external affairs. So the main thing I wanted to talk about today is that we actually have a new contest that we're rolling out. A lot of you may have heard about our Seamless contest. And so since it was so popular, we're actually having 3 more contests. And so I'm dropping it into the chat right now. And so if you can click on that link, the new contests are actually going to be 6 Seamless gift cards, 100 Lyft credits, 100 annual City Bike memberships, as well as 25 annual Explore memberships to the Museum of Modern Art and the MoMA PS1. And you can see like the estimated value, and that contest will actually be running from August 17th until September 21st. And then also on the field side, just in the Bronx, we still have our Wednesday weekly dialer for the low self-response neighborhoods that we're still running from 6 to 8 every Wednesday. So I would love for everyone to join on that as well. And then we're also doing a little bit of in-person outreach. Some stuff that we're actually doing tomorrow actually is one of my field associates, Badar, is actually going to be doing in-person outreach with the Bronx Mutual Aid. And so he'll be out there from 12 to 4 doing essentially helping people fill out the census. And then we're also going to be doing a little bit of in-person outreach with the Bowman campaign, because they have connections in Wakefield and in the northern part of Bronx. And so other than that, that's everything that I have. Jason, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, I'd like to just talk a few minutes about the census timeline and how it's changed, just to kind of give everybody a quick synopsis. So back when COVID started, the Commerce Secretary, the Census Bureau Director, and the President of the United States all requested an extension of the census, the statutory extension. Just so everyone knows, right now by law, the census numbers need to be delivered to the President of the United States by December 31st, and then they go out to the states about 3 to 4 months later, so the states can do their redistricting. As I mentioned, the President, Commerce Secretary, and the Census Bureau Director all asked Congress for an extension. The House of Representatives passed an extension, a 90-day extension. At the moment, the Senate has not passed anything, which means that we thought the census would be extended to October 31st, and as everyone knows, it's now September 30th. There is a chance that it could be extended, but I think we all have to operate under the assumption that it's not going to be extended. Congressman Carolyn Maloney did introduce a bill that would require the census to continue the census through October 31st and to extend the statutory deadline for submission for apportionment data to the states and the president till April. I don't have a lot of confidence that that is going to happen, but that is, behind the scenes, that's what they're trying to push. We had to see if the Senate puts it in their coronavirus bill that's coming up, but right now, I don't have a lot of faith in that happening. Josh went over our contests; those are very important. It's also the Bronx is now at 57.3. I live in Brooklyn, and you are beating Brooklyn, so congratulations there. The U.S. rate is at 64. New York State's at 59.8. If we look at the 2010 numbers compared to today, the city is doing better in relation. So, for example, in 2010, the self-response rate was 76% nationally, and New York City was 62%. So that's about 15-point difference. Right now, the city is about 10 points behind the national rate. So, although we're still back, we have made up 5 percentage points. So, I think we can. I think that we can attribute that to all the work that that you guys have been doing, that we've been doing, that the CCF awardees have been doing. So we have been making gains, but across the board, the census self-response rate is down everywhere across the country. And nationally, it's down 12%. So our concern with moving up the date to September 30th is that there's going to be much more undercount. I'll speak just for a second on what's going to happen after September 30th. So the Census Bureau is going to impute numbers. They have a very sophisticated algorithm that will try to figure out the 40% of the country that hasn't filled out the census. Unfortunately, they claim that it's 99% accurate. So there's no way for us to appeal the number at all whatsoever. In 2010, the city was undercounted by about 250,000 people that we think. And we did try to get the Census Bureau to change the number, and basically whatever the number they give at the end of this process is the number that we have to live with for the next 10 years. So for the next 6 weeks, we really need to push the self-response rate. Josh talked about some of the things we're doing. We're going to have basically 2 weeks of action, kind of a get out the count, or kind of like a GOTV, except get out the count for the last 2 weeks in September. So we're going to look to partner with you and your organizations and try to find a way, try to pull you into what NYC Census 2020 is doing to really try to finish really hard. And we can share more of that information with you as it rolls out. I'm willing to take any questions, but I just want to make sure that everyone understood kind of what this truncated timeline looks like, and know that legislatively they're still trying to extend the census.
Yes, thank you very much, Jason. Yeah, now is really the time. We really have to hit the ground running, and kind of create that sense of urgency. That September 30th is a new deadline, and we all need to be counted. And anybody who has any questions, they could put it in the chat room now for Jason or for Josh. Anyone? Let's see.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the list, Tracy. I don't see anybody with their hand raised either.
Okay. Julio Rivera asked, well, he responded to Jason's question. He said, not sure if your question was answered, but sometimes the Bureau follows up if there's some missing info from the form or their address file doesn't match up with your housing situation. For example, if the unit numbers don't match up,
Yes.
to work with your enumerator just in case.
Right, and this goes back to what the earlier said, that you can fill out the census more than once. There is a deduplication process at the end because the census is tied to not an individual, it's tied to an address. Mm-hmm. So at the end, if they notice that one Main Street has, apartment 1 has 3 submissions, they will actually go through and look to see if they match up. And if there's any discrepancy, then there will be a follow-up by numeric.
And Maria Matos also responded to that question. It said, remember, the Census Bureau has more than 104 surveys running throughout the year, besides this census, the every 10-year census. So it could be, hopefully it's not, one of those other census like the ACS, or one of those other surveys. So I don't see any questions for Jason and Josh, but we do look forward to working with you. The borough president has held several. He's been over the course of this pandemic. He's been doing numerous giveaways, whether it's food, PPE, or now we're doing school supplies. And we've been having census folk there with tablets to help enroll the people. So it's very important that if you are a member of the Complete Count Committee and your organization is doing something, to please let us know, and we will definitely tie you in and get you the resources that you need in order to, we want to go to places where there's built-in audiences. So let us know when you're having an event, and we will definitely share that with the people that do the census outreach, and make sure that we have people there on the ground helping you out. Also, Emily, I want to thank you for your presentation. You had a really complete kind of toolkit for our organizations to follow. So we'll be sharing that. I know you posted it, but we will be sharing that with our Complete Count Committee, as well as the larger Bronx communities, just so people know that there are resources if you're an organization and getting the word out. And we really appreciate that. And just wanted to say we are going to be having so we've been having these meetings on a monthly basis, but now that it's on a crunch time, we'll probably be having the next meeting 2 weeks from now to touch base, to tell you any updates, because now the time is of the essence. Look out for our emails. We'll be letting you know of other events that are going on, and maybe ways that you guys can plug in. In terms of the grants, the organizations that are receiving the New York State grant, we're going to be meeting with them next week, and we will be having you partner with them in your local communities, because the more the merrier, and we got to make sure that we get access to as many people as we can during these times right now. And so I want to thank everyone. I want to thank again Emily and Maria and Jason and Josh for all the work that you've been doing, and we look to assist you in your day-to-day activities. And again, please feel free. Bronx Complete Count, send us an email. Let us know what you're doing so we can make sure that we spread the word for you and get a complete count. So with that, I don't see any other. Let me see. Oh wait, hold on one second. Yeah, I don't see any other questions. So this is going to conclude today's meeting, and look out for the next meeting, which will probably be in 2 weeks, and we will be reaching out to you with updates and different asks to figure out how we could partner with you better. Okay, so thank you very much on behalf of Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr., and on behalf of uh, Marika Scott, Deputy Borough President Marika Scott McFadden, thank you all for what you do. And let's get that count. Let's get our money. We need our money. Yes, please.